If you want more Bengals position breakdown videos, show it by sharing today's video for me right now on social media, whatever platform in which you desire. It does not matter to us. It works for us. Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, you name it. It all works. Share today's video for me right now. By the way, we're going to be breaking down the tight end room here on today's edition of Bengals Breakdown. Once again, I am your host, Stone Shields. If you haven't already seen it, we do have a running back breakdown that is already up on the channel. So make sure you guys go check that out if you have not done so already. Just a little heads up, I'm doing a little solo producing here on today's show. So if you see me look down, whatever the case may be, just trying to do multiple things here at once as we progress through today's show. But help us out, share today's video for me right now. Just trying to get the word out there to more Bengals fans that aren't necessarily tapped in to what we're doing here at Bengals Breakdown. So we're going to be looking at the Bengals tight end room, as I talked about here on today's show. We're going to be going player by player and kind of delivering some pros and cons with all of these guys. It'll be interesting to see who all makes the team for the Cincinnati Bengals and who ultimately is going to be on the outside looking in for this football team. We're also at the end going to be discussing the likelihood of what guys are going to make the roster and what guys are not. Obviously, right now, lots of guys on the roster, right? When that thing gets cut down to 53, not everybody is going to be standing. I think for the most part, we know what the top end of the room is going to look like, but there's one or two guys that are kind of a coin flip. It'll be interesting to see ultimately what happens with them as we get closer to the regular season. Let's take kind of a broad view here of what the depth chart looks like right now. I've got Drew Sample penciled in as that tight end one. You might be thinking, you're crazy. It's Mike Gesicki, what have you. That's fine. Gesicki to me is more like a big slot. He's almost more of a wide receiver than a tight end, to be completely honest with you. But regardless, those are your two guys, Drew Sample and Mike Gesicki, that are kind of leading the charge for you at that tight end spot. I've got Tanner Hudson in there at tight end 3. Certainly interested to see what exactly his future looks like with this football team, if in fact he will be sticking around. Then you have Cam Grandy, Erick All Jr., Tanner McLachlan, and Cole Taylor as well. We've spent time talking about all these guys on today's show. But do want to start with the top end of the room, Mike Gesicki and Drew Sample. Both of these guys are coming off, respectively, the best years of their career, and it certainly helps when your quarterback has his best year of his career from a statistical standpoint as well. And I'm really expecting these guys to continue that upward growth, right? Offensively, usually there's always some new pieces that are being worked in. It's the same guys that you are running back here, and it was the most potent offense in the National Football League this past season, and I'm expecting it to get better. There was a lot of questions outside the building if Cincinnati would be able to retain Mike Gesicki in free agency, but clearly he wanted to stay here and continue playing with Jamar Chase and T. Higgins and Joe Burrow, of course, and he's going to have an opportunity to continue improving upon what he did last year. Thought his numbers were really incredible. He kind of was that joker for you, right? That when things, when teams were allocating all their resources towards T. Higgins and Jamar Chase, or when T. Higgins was hurt even, Joe Burrow could trust Mike Gesicki in third down situations and red zone situations to come up and make big plays. And Mike Gesicki did just that. I'm ecstatic that he is back. I was banging on the table. I thought it was just as important to have Mike Gesicki back as T. Higgins, and you get them both back, and it really is incredible for this Cincinnati offense. Drew Sample as well. He's not really the pass-first kind of guy, right, or a catch-the-ball-first kind of guy. Certainly more of a blocking tight end, but he was unbelievable, and he certainly will be back for Cincinnati in 2025. Really looking forward to those two guys spearheading kind of this room for Cincinnati in 2024. Pin comment time here on today's show. Grade the Bengals tight end room for me in the comment section right now. A, B, C, D, or F. I personally feel pretty good about it. If there's one guy that was healthy that we're about to talk about here right around the corner, I would feel even better about it. But regardless, sound off for us in the comment section of today's show. And that guy I'm talking about, of course, is Erick All Jr. He's going to miss the entirety of the 2025 season because of some setbacks with that knee injury, right? Obviously, he tore his ACL 9 games in to the season and ultimately had to get multiple surgeries in order to replace that knee. And what the Bengals got from him in 9 games really was incredible. I'll be the first to admit, when the Bengals drafted him, I was like, what are we doing? That's a bit of a reach. I get he's a local guy, what have you. But it was unbelievable the things that he could do. If you remember, the Bengals really liked putting him at that fullback spot in front of the running back. He'd put his hand in the ground. He'd go out there and block. Was also a threat to go out there and catch passes as well. Was great in pass pro. He literally was doing it all as a rookie, and it was spectacular to watch. Ultimately ends up getting hurt. And that kind of was the knock on Erick All Jr., right? Had 2 significant injuries in college, a back issue and a torn ACL as well. Then ultimately 9 games in, he tears his ACL here in the NFL due to a setback, needs another surgery, going to miss the entirety of the 2025 season. We are not going to see him until 2026. And it's my way of thinking that if he was healthy, there would be so much less questions at this tight end spot here this offseason if the Bengals knew they were going to have Erick All Jr. available to them. Shoot, Mike Gesicki might not even be on this football team if that were the case. But obviously that is not the way things are. The Bengals are not going to use Erick All Jr. for a roster spot. He'll be on the PUP list, and they'll have to figure out how exactly they're going to build their tight end room around Mike Gesicki and Drew Sample. We, of course, are going to be talking about that here throughout the rest of today's show. But before we do that, I do want to give a shout-out to our friends over at Fanatics. Let you guys know that these Bengals Hoodie T-shirts are out. They're on sale. You can go get them. Chatsports.com/Bengals Hoodie T-shirt / and obviously it's super hot right now in Cincinnati, but they're short sleeve. They got the hood. If you want to rock that to training camp, perhaps you could even throw the hood up, shade yourself a little bit. It's very thin, but it's very quality material there as well. Fanatics does a tremendous job, and really show your support for the Cincinnati Bengals, show your support for us here at Chat Sports by going over there and checking that out. We'll put that link in the comment section and the description of today's show, chatsports.com/Bengals Hoodie T-shirt / Next guy here on this list. Now is when things really start to get interesting, and it is Tanner Hudson. Tanner Hudson, of course, in the eyes of Bengals fans, probably gets disrespected a little bit, in large part due to the opener in Week 1 against New England when he fumbled at the goal line. And a lot of people kind of look back at that play and say, well, if that didn't happen, the Bengals would have won the football game. Maybe that's true. Maybe it's not. Regardless, Cincinnati needed to be better in that game. But I've shown these numbers before, and really his career here in Cincinnati has been pretty solid. And I think he kind of has been an underrated part of this football team. But kind of feels like he might be one of the guys that's on the outside looking in. So could his fellow Tanner, guy that was picked in the 6th round, not this past draft in 2025, but in 2024 out of Arizona. The Bengals wanted to keep him on the roster, right? Remember, the Bengals kept 5 tight ends coming out of camp last year. They really wanted to keep McLachlan because they believed in him, and they were looking for him to really kind of be a guy that they could rely on in years to come. Now, he only played 2 games, so it kind of feels like it's now or never for Tanner McLachlan in terms of making the team and being a valuable asset to the team, right? They're not just going to keep him to save a roster spot again here in year 2, right? It makes a little bit of sense in year 1, but I don't see them doing that in year 2 with Tanner McLachlan. I'll be the first to say, when the Bengals took him, I was ecstatic that they took him. I thought he was going to be better than Erick All Jr. Clearly, that did not transpire that way. He was only on the field twice, but he's got to have a really good camp and a really good preseason. One of the guys I'm really going to be locked in on here in a couple weeks. When I look at the 2 Tanners, I feel like these are the wild cards. I don't see both of these guys making this football team for Cincinnati. I think one of them is going to be on the outside looking in. Could you move Tanner Hudson in a trade? Perhaps land somebody? Not something Cincinnati likes to do, but I think that'd be a great idea. Are you going to get an all-world player for Tanner Hudson? Absolutely not. But I do think you could perhaps get somebody as it relates to Tanner McLachlan. Like I said, if he doesn't have a productive training camp and a productive preseason, the Bengals are going to try to put him on the practice squad. And ultimately, if they put a 6th-round guy from a couple of years ago on the practice squad, somebody is probably going to roll the dice and take a chance with them, and his tenure as a Cincinnati Bengal will come to an end. So those 2 guys in particular, I view them as wild cards. Again, I don't think they're both going to make the roster this year. It'll be interesting to see which one makes it, and if the one that doesn't is cut or traded or whatever the case may be as far as how they are not on the roster. How many tight ends do you think the Bengals are going to keep? Kept 5 coming out last year. It's kind of a high number. I don't expect them probably to keep 5 this year. Feels like maybe more 4, but we'll see. Let me know what you guys think in the comments of today's show. Other tight ends. There's 2 more guys that we haven't yet talked about here on today's show, Cam Grandy and Cole Taylor. Cam Grandy, of course, is a former UDFA, and the Bengals really liked Cam Grandy, and they really liked what he was able to do for this football team. He got a 1-year deal, and that by no means he's a lock to make the roster, but my gut tells me that the Bengals really like him and that he's going to stick around and make this football team. Your UDFA this year is Cole Taylor, good football player, wrapped up his career at West Virginia, I believe, and look, he's probably not going to make the roster unless somebody gets hurt, right? That's kind of the way it is. You got a lot of UDFAs around the league. I think the Bengals do have some UDFAs that are in spots that could perhaps make the team, particularly when I look at the interior of their defensive line. I do not view Cole Taylor as that guy, but maybe he'll prove us all wrong come training camp and, of course, the preseason. So let's kind of do a roster status here and take a look at all of these guys on one graphic. Drew Sample and Mike Gesicki, those guys I have listed as locks. There's no way they don't make the football team, right? And then I have the maybe safe designation towards Tanner Hudson and Tanner McLachlan. Again, it's my way of thinking that one of these guys is probably going to be safe and one of them is probably not going to be safe. So that's why I have the maybe safe designation by those two. And then Cam Grandy, I think the Bengals really like him. Again, it wouldn't shock me at all if they cut him, but I think he's a guy that when they gave him that one-year contract, obviously, they were in a position to be able to do that. But I didn't think that they're going to necessarily look to replace him. I feel like they feel like they're good in that spot with Cam Grandy on their football team. And then I got Cole Taylor, of course, on the outside looking in. The guy, of course, that is not on this graphic is Erick All Jr., and he is going to be on the PUP list, and he will not be a part of this football team in 2025 from an on-the-field perspective. He'll still be around, of course, but as far as taking up a roster spot, certainly not going to be one of those guys. So that's kind of how I see this Bengals tight end room panning out when camp ultimately breaks and it's time to go play football for real.